In this episode, I'm diving into why I made the bold strategic decision to invest. And yes, I said invest in the Porsche. I'm getting the Porsche. I'm so excited. So we're going to get into that. We're also going to explore the transformative power of details and fully embodying the energy of what it is that you desire so that you can effortlessly create and attract everything that you want. So this is going to be a very elevated conversation, one of which you cannot unhear. So be excited and beware. Let's get into it. Welcome to All In with Allie, the podcast for online business owners and entrepreneurs who are ready to create the life and business of their dreams. I'm so happy you are here. So I did it. I went on and did it. I pulled the trigger. I have been talking about wanting a Porsche for a hot minute now. And a couple of you, it's so cute. Like some of you will like see videos in my current car because I have a fine car right now. And it's very beautiful on the inside. And some people will see videos from my current car and be like, did you get the Porsche? Which I think is so cool because y'all pay attention and listen. But the answer was always no. It's here. It's close, right? And I could feel that it was close. And then finally, I just had this moment where, I noticed that I did this with probably my last really, really big investment, which was joining the big mastermind that I joined at the beginning of 2022, Melanie Ann Layer's mastermind, Unity Mastermind. And which is about the same price as the Porsche. Actually, it is. But last time, that was like my last big business. Well, besides, I did it 2 years in a row. So I guess that would be the last time that I made a decision this big in terms of cash and monetary investment in something. And I noticed then that I was doing this thing, like I wanted it really bad. And what I know about myself now is that there are things that will like come and go just like anybody else, right? Or like we'll see something, whether it could be anything, you'll see something, be like, ooh, I want that. But then it loses its luster over time. And before you know it, after like a couple of weeks, you don't really want it anymore. It was kind of like a weird ego flare thing. But I've learned that when I have what I'm going to call a divine desire, because I believe many of our desires are divinely given. There's a reason why you want what you want. It's the way that you're designed. And I've noticed that when I have a divine desire, that desire does not go away, right? Like it needs to be satiated. There's a reason why you have it, to bring it to life. And like with Melanie's mastermind, it was one of those things, when I had first inquired about it and heard how much it was going to cost each month, I had only paid a fraction of that for coaching before. And although I wanted it really bad, I was like, okay, well, maybe this time next year I'll do that and I'll be ready to do that. But then I couldn't get it off my mind and I became obsessed with it and couldn't stop thinking about it for months. And then finally I was like, or what would it look like to step into that version of myself now? Like, why am I waiting on time or any kind of outside circumstance to dictate who I am and who I could choose to be right now? And that was the first time that I had ever done that and skipped timelines and literally collapsed time at that level in business. I had never done that before. I was always really safe and waited for, it to be logical sense in some cases. So that decision worked out really well for me because what happened was overnight, everything shifted. Like after making that decision, I was not the same human. There was the person me before I signed on for that mastermind and the me after I signed on, and she was not the same human. And what it was looking back in hindsight is I shifted my whole entire frequency. Instead of being the woman who was preparing to be ready or not quite ready yet, which is at a certain frequency, I became the woman who was, right? Like that is who I just decided. And I realized, oh, we have the power to do that. Okay. And I saw how quickly things shifted in terms of my results and the caliber of client that I was attracting, all the things. So anyway, I realized that what I was doing then, that's what I was doing with the Porsche, right? I've wanted the Porsche. This was actually, I put a Porsche Cayenne on my vision board in 2018. I think the year that I had cruised was the year that I started this business. And I made a vision board because I was going really big, right? Or, that's what I was claiming and calling in. So I made a vision board, and the car that I put on there was a Porsche Cayenne. Well, I think it was like the year after I did actually need another car because I had cruise, and I was driving a sedan at the time, which was way too small. And we could not, like a Porsche, that would have been a silly decision at the time. Well, who knows? Maybe if I had done it, maybe I'd be a million steps ahead. Probably. Anyway, but I felt in my soul like that was not the move, right? And you just know, like, there's also, I would also love like a multi-million-dollar home on a beach. And while we could probably somehow finance something like that, I don't want that bad enough right now. And two, I'm not ready for that, right? So there are certain times like your body, your soul will send you hints of like, hey, it's time. You can step into this now. And what I noticed with the Porsche was I wanted it so bad. It became this thing that was like, yeah, one day, I know I'll get the Porsche. I'm not worried about that. But I kept projecting it far in the future, right? It was like, I want to make sure that I want to pay for it all in cash. And, I want like that moment. And, and I kept thinking about it like maybe this time next year, right? Same exact thing I was doing with the mastermind. But I became obsessed out of nowhere, right? It became this thing that like, yeah, one day I would love it to, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Even when I went on the Sales Girls podcast, shout out Macy and Kat. When I went on their podcast, we talked about this, right? I was like, Macy, let me ask you a question. What about like the car? Because we were talking about details. We were talking about the power of dressing well and, being an embodiment of the energy that you want to attract. And prior to when we were recording that podcast, we were talking about our cars because they were like, do you still have the Lexus? I was like, yeah, I still have the Lexus. And they both had their older cars too. And I was like, oh, wow, that's so interesting because we're all very successful. So I was like, wow. And that's why I brought it up on the podcast. Like, well, how do you feel about the car situation? Because in my heart, it feels like the car is a missing puzzle piece as far as like, that's how I feel anyway. And we talked about it there and you can go listen to that. But anyway, my point is like, this became something I was literally dreaming about. And I just had this moment. I was like, why am I not just getting the damn Porsche? Like, it's not that like I can afford the Porsche. Why am I not letting myself have what it is that I want? Like, and again, I realized it was almost like this fear of what it would mean to step into that and to activate that version of myself, And it's really insidious. It's really tricky or sneaky rather. So anyway, I was like, why am I doing that? I want the Porsche. I can make it happen. It would feel so good. It would feel so fun. My word for this year is big. It would be a big move for me. It would be a match for that energy. And it's just a match for where I am. So I've got the damn Porsche. I put the money down. They have to build it because I want it exactly how I want. And it's coming. And it's so cool. It's going to be stunning. I'm so excited. I'm so proud of myself. And It just feels right and it feels so good. So we're going to talk about why I know this is a strategic decision for me. And again, we'll get into like the power of details and the power of these decisions. And while the car you drive is a bigger detail, it gets so much smaller than that, right? Like I think of details, when I think of embodiment is all details, right? It's who you are to your core. And your outside accessories and your environment simply enhances that. That's all it is. Like you are who you are. And I want to say before I go any further, this is not a podcast to encourage anybody to buy anything, right? Whether you want the luxury thing or whatever it is, like if you want it, go get it. But this is not to encourage you to do something that you're not quite ready to do, right? Like I felt like when I really checked into it, I was like, oh, I'm ready for this. Why am I like projecting this out later than it needs to be? Why not just do it now and move on with your life and move on to the next thing that you want? So anyway, this is like not to tempt or again, like persuade or make you think that you need anything outside of you to be who you are or what you want to be. You just are, and you get to create that. You get to become that independent of every other thing. It's just that the other things sometimes make it easier to tap into that and way more fun. Okay. But not everybody values cars, right? Not everybody values luxury. Not everybody values cars. So like, what is that thing for you? That's what I would have you or think about. You know, for me, it matters what car I drive. It matters, I care about all of those details. Hence why I ended up getting the Porsche. But for you, if you don't value, like if that means nothing to you, God bless you. Like I'm jealous actually, but like, what is your thing? You know, we always have like, what is your divine desire? What does that look like? So maybe it looks like a certain amount of money in the bank or a certain amount of money in investments, or maybe it looks like experiences and travel or a certain level of education, or, I mean, we could go on and on. It could be anything. All right. But all of these things, again, they're just accessories. They're enhancements. And when you understand the power of energy and the power of you in a certain state, then you can look at these things and utilize them as tools, as permission slips. So the Porsche to me is very much a tool that, yes, I am investing in to be even further of an embodiment of the level that I'm stepping into this year. It is a permission slip for me. I don't need it, but it elevates me. I already know, like when I sit in that car, you know, when I test drove it, when a couple of weeks ago, when I'm sitting in it, I feel different. And what's really cool, and I really think what prepared me for the Porsche is, again, I know enough about manifesting, and I know enough about the power of your energy and realizing that like we have emotions for a reason, and any feeling that we want to create in our lives, we get to feel it, right? You can access any feeling, any emotion, any frequency now. And the more that you practice a certain feeling and a certain emotion, the more that you are a match to that and the more that you attract that. So I've actually been driving the Porsche in my mind for the past few months, maybe even close to a year, you know, like getting in my Lexus, feeling the feeling as if I am driving the Porsche. But I just decided one day, you know what, I'd like to graduate to the real thing, which is great. And you get to do that, which is why I did it. But if you don't give a damn about what you drive, great. What is your version of this that you might be denying yourself for whatever reason? You are going to learn a lot there. There is solid gold in that prompt, right? Like that would be an incredible journal prompt. What do I want really bad that I could have or that I maybe could figure out how to get, but I am denying myself. And what are the reasons why I'm denying it? These are limitations you are choosing to put on yourself. And you might be thinking, but no, that's literally my reality. The money is not there. I'm not creating that. That's the current situation. But if you decided, I'm going to get that thing, your brain is going to go to work and figure out, oh, how do we get that thing? And that's what happened with me. The second that I started saying like, you know what? 2025, early, I'm going to start getting the ball rolling on this. And the next thing you know, I'm coming up with the new offer ideas. I'm already I'm halfway there in my bank account, right? Like all because I activated a higher level of myself and a higher level of creativity. Okay. So like when you stop yourself, you say, well, I can't because blank, because of again, some outside thing, your brain says, and so be it. And God says, and so be it. Or you could just say, I'm going to get it. So God, bring me the solutions. And God will say, yes, ma'am. So be it. That's my experience anyway. Okay. So again, like with this situation, it became an obsession to me. And I was tired of obsessing over it. Now I will say, because I feel like some of you will be interested in this because I've heard a lot of feedback that you also have a dynamic that's similar to me and Chris. So like Chris is my husband. Our dynamic is we are such a great balance to each other because I'm like floating in the clouds. He's very grounded. So I lift him up and I help him think bigger and I push him in a good way to live a little and to have some fun. For example, he needed a new car like a few months ago and he has a great job. He works really hard. He works with these high level business people and he had been driving this truck for like 10 years. And it got to the point where it wasn't even safe to drive anymore because it would there was one time we were with the boys and we had to pull over on the interstate with the boys because something went wrong with something in the truck. So like things were like that were happening. And it got to a point where the truck was going to be more to fix than what it was worth, right? So it was clearly time to invest in a different vehicle. Well, what he wanted to do was essentially get a bit newer of the same thing that he had so he could pay it off and not have a car note because he loves not having a car note. And my thing, I was like, look, I get it. But one of his values and like something that really bothered him about his old truck was like sometimes he would have to drive clients around. Like if they were ever visiting Nashville, which is a big hub, and oftentimes they would, he would go get dinner with them, maybe like drop them off at the airport or something like that. And they would be in his car and he would like not feel as confident. And I was just like, look, why? And by the way, I know what kind of truck he wants. We talk about these things. So I was like, why aren't you getting what you want? You can afford it. Yes, maybe you have to finance some of it, but like leverage debt isn't bad, if it will elevate you, it's going to make you feel more confident. It's also like a match and speaks to how hard you've been working. You want that. Why aren't you letting yourself get the thing? And he fought me on it for a bit. And then finally he got the damn truck. He got the one that he wanted. And this helped me get the Porsche, by the way. This was very strategic on my end. Cause I was like, if you're getting that damn truck, I'm going to get the damn Porsche. You just wait. Okay. I just had to bide my time. But he ended up getting the truck and he loves it and he gets it, right? Like he totally gets it now because when you step into whether it's a home or the truck or the relationship or whatever, like it could be anything, right? Like anything that elevates you that you honestly want, you feel that difference. And when you understand the weight of that feeling and when you understand that's literally your frequency either increasing or decreasing, you understand the power of these decisions. right? So like, anyway, I help him with things like that. I push him a little bit and I encourage him to live a little and to have some fun and to be more of the embodiment of the man that he also is stepping into and that he is. And then he keeps us from spending every dollar that we have, he keeps us. So anyway, we're a really good match there. But I will say, he wants me to have the Porsche, genuinely does, but it's an expensive car. I mean, compared to like what we were used to spending and ever have spent on a vehicle, right? Like if somebody had told me 2 years ago I'd be dropping what I am on a car, I would have been like, damn, I probably would have believed you, but also like it would have felt really, really big. So anyway, this is a big decision. And prior conversations, it had always been something like, yeah, I'll get it eventually. So I think like he also had it in his mind that I was talking about late 2025, early 2026, whatever. And then I hit him with, I'm getting the Porsche now. So it did require a little bit of conversation, but my point was, and I was so proud. I was so proud and in love with this man in this moment and proud of us. And also like he listens. Our men are listening. We know that. But like, if you relate to me and maybe like you're more of like the energy type person, call it like quote woo woo, which I hate that term now, but like maybe you understand more of that than your partner. They are listening. And what I've learned here is like the fact of the matter, just prove it. Be the example, show the power of this. And I've done this over the years. So he trusts me. Right. And I just, when I came to him very confidently and I said, I have a plan. This is my plan. And I'm getting the Porsche and I'm putting down the deposit like immediately. He was like, okay, if you have a plan, he was like, I want you to have the Porsche. And I understand like it is time. You deserve the Porsche. I want you to have the Porsche. I was like, thank you. That was such a big moment because I didn't want to do that with, obviously, that's your partner. You don't want to make a decision that big without being on the same team. Probably would have done it anyway, if I'm being completely honest. But luckily, I did not have to apologize for just doing it instead of asking permission. So yeah. So anyway, that's how we got him on board. I worked him a little bit. I was strategic. We got him his first and I was like, all right, struck him when he was weak. Anyway, so that's how that happened. Let me see where I want to go next. Yeah. Okay. So here is why this is such an important decision. And again, the power of detail, right? All this is embodiment. You walking the walk and being a match to the energy that you want to attract. So last week, we discussed how to create a name for yourself, right? I was like, look, going into 2025, I want you to either make a name for yourself or a bigger name for yourself. I want you to like really allow yourself to be seen and go for what it is that you want. Become known, build a brand and become the go-to person in your industry for what it is that you provide. And one of those steps was the first thing we need to do is we need to get clear on what it is that you want and what you want to be known for, right? Like what is, when people think of you, when people think of your brand, what are the thoughts that come to mind? What do they relate you to, right? Like what are some of the things? And part of that, when you're building a brand, it's again, like I said in the last episode, it's so much deeper than just throwing out some brand colors, right? Like you can't create beautiful luxury style graphics and call yourself a luxury brand unless you are the embodiment of that and you provide that experience. But as the business owner, as many of us are the face of our brands. If you're not, then this will be a little different for you. But if you're the face of your brand, you want to get clear on like, what is the perception and the persona? What's the avatar here that I am putting out public facing to the world? Okay. Another way to think about this, like we talked about, and if you haven't listened to last week's episode, please do, because the steps are really good. And a lot of you really like that episode. So thank you for that feedback. But you also want to think about, like, when you're thinking about the brand that you're putting out there and your business in general, you of course want to take into consideration the type of person that you want to work with, right? Like, who do you want to attract to yourself? What kind of buyer do you want to attract? So if you want to attract a certain caliber of client, you have to be a match to that client. If you want to attract a certain level of results, a certain level of revenue, maybe a certain ease of buying or a certain frequency or magnitude of sales, you have to be a match to that. How you become a match to that is being the literal embodiment of that thing. Match the energy, because like attracts like. So while cars are not a big deal to everybody, which is fine, and here's something else. What is the thing, right? Like, what is going to help you access that energy? But where some people get tripped up, and I've done this before, because we're all on social media, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of people out there. You see somebody else who's successful on the internet, and you see, oh, she's in so-and-so's mastermind. Okay, if I want to be successful, I need to be in her mastermind. Or she drives blah, blah, blah car. Oh, that's probably why she's successful. Or she wears blah, blah, blah clothing. Or she does XYZ to her body or her wellness. Or she's married to this type of person or whatever. We see people that we admire or that you see on the internet that you look up to in some way, or maybe envy in some way. For some people, you don't have to admire them. Maybe it's envy for you, which I would absolutely shift if I were you. But we see that, and it's really easy to get tripped up and think, oh, okay, so if I want what she has in terms of business, I need to have what she has in terms of products and environment and external factors. And it couldn't be further from the truth, right? If you don't care about a certain thing, it will not affect you. It won't, right? And this is why you can see and find many examples of wildly successful women who don't own anything luxury, or wildly successful women who don't have a super cleaned up, buttoned up, vibey brand presence, right? You see a lot, you can find many examples of people on Instagram who there's no rhyme or reason to their feed. They're not investing in expensive branding. They may not even have a website. Why? Because that doesn't matter to them, because they don't need that as a permission slip for themselves. They're not saying, okay, in order for me to be successful, my brand has to look this way, or I need to carry that bag, or I need to look this certain way. It's simply what matters to you. What matters to you for a reason. So for me, environment deeply matters to me. And it always has. I learned later on, once I got into human design, I can't remember what it is, but there's some center that I have I think it's defined. I think all my centers are defined except for one thing. Anyway, it's been a long time, but anyway, there's some center that is defined that means that like environments deeply, deeply affect me, right? So like environment is the company that you keep, where you spend your time, what you drive, even down to like how I dress myself, like all these type of details matter. And that's why I ended up getting the car, right? Because it started bothering me. It started feeling like this missing puzzle piece. And I realized, again, because I understand the power of our energy, If it starts bothering me, that is affecting me negatively business-wise too, because it's bringing down my energy. I'm actually losing money when I'm not moving on the thing that I ultimately want or starting to get the ball rolling to ease my mind that that thing is coming. And when I don't do that, I'm literally losing money because it decreases my frequency and it lowers my energy. Okay. But the longer that I've been doing this work, I realize that the magic is in the details. Details do matter. And I've said this before, but I'll say it again. It used to irk me so bad when people would say that quote, how you do one thing is how you do everything. Because I would hear that and be like, that's dumb. That's not true. That's absolutely not true. And the reason why I was thinking that is because no, because I'm this way over here, but then I'm this way over here. I do things very, very different. But then I realized those were an opportunity to grow. I was keeping myself capped by not fully embodying what it is that I want, right? So like, for example, when I first started getting into this work and I started to learn more about energy and law of attraction and the things that I'm super into and I'm quite frankly obsessed with, and I've been obsessed with ever since I heard it, ever since I heard and started learning about the power of our energy, it just felt like the only way I can describe it, it just felt like the truest thing I'd ever heard. It felt like I was relearning something I had always known. It felt almost like coming home. That's what it felt like for me. And I've been obsessed with this for years. Well before I started a business, I was nerding out on The Secret and anything that I could find, which you couldn't find much at the time, but now it's everywhere. Anyway, and what I found was like I would nerd out on the power of energy and stuff. And I would like talk about it a little bit with certain people, but with my family, I wouldn't talk about it. With Chris, I wouldn't talk about it because I didn't think I thought he would think it was a little weird. I mean, I talked about it because I don't care if he thinks I'm weird, but like I could tell it wasn't really his thing. So I wouldn't really push it or anything. And I wouldn't talk about it in business because I was afraid of being judged. Right. So what it was like is I was like dual personality, living these two different lives, showing up one way over here, showing up completely differently over here. And I could think of so many different examples where I was essentially doing the same thing. Another example would be like, if you're super organized and show up really vibey in one area of your life, and then you're like a total slob in another area. It's just like this weird dissonance. It's like, wait, are you or aren't you, right? Are you put together? Like, are you this or are you not? And it's not like this doesn't mean we have to be perfect. This doesn't mean that you have to be like one way forever. Obviously, we're very dynamic humans. We're gonna show up. There's nuance, right? We understand that, but I think you get what I'm saying. It's like sometimes, like for me, it's this very stark dual contrast. And I realize, oh, wait, just because I'm doing that and I'm getting a certain result doesn't mean that if I stop doing that and I allow myself to fully embody who I am, no matter who is listening, that my results couldn't get better. So that's what I did. I was like, okay, well, this is what I'm into. This is who I am. I'm going to start talking about it with everybody. Like this is, and I'm going to be proud about it. I'm not going to worry about people judging me or whatever, or not getting it. It's just, if I believe in this, I believe in this. So do you or don't you? So I started talking about it more to my friends, to my family, to Chris, and in business. And when I did this, it was like the amount of people I started attracting that also spoke the same language and that like wanted to work with me because I started talking about these things, and it opened up all these new doors. So anyway, that's just like kind of a random example. But what I'm learning is that saying how you do one thing is how you do everything, that is the power of details, right? It's a frequency conversation. You either are something or you aren't something, right? So I joke and I say this kind of jokingly, but it's true, which is a nugget of shit painting gold doesn't make it gold, right? Just because it looks gold on the outside doesn't mean that it's gold. It's just a nugget of shit made to look gold. It's an imposter. Okay. Gold either is gold or it isn't gold. And this is why details matter, because you either are a match for something or you aren't a match to something. And the details add up, right? They enhance, they add to that frequency. So when it comes to whatever energy that you're wanting to attract, you're either a match to it or you aren't. So I realized I had this moment, and I would love for you to think about this too for yourself. Like, what in your life is a mismatch to what you want to attract? Where are you maybe dropping the ball or not paying attention, thinking that it doesn't matter, but it absolutely does. So what I realized was I care very deeply about my environment. I always have. So over the years, I've started investing in certain things to overall elevate my different environments, right? So I invest in high quality clothes. Side note, this is another thing that like I noticed was a gap for us, was Chris's wardrobe. As silly as that sounds, right? But what I realized, and this was such a point of contention for me, not for him. And it's so light and it's a tiny little detail because it's not even me, but he's an extension of me, right? He's in a way a representative of me. I'm a representation of me. I'm a representation of him. We're a family unit, right? So it's one of those things that like almost flew underneath the radar, but it was this point of contention because like I value what I wear. I take it very seriously, right? Like if we're going on a date or to an event together, or I mean me by myself, but like especially together, weeks in advance, I'm making sure I have the outfit, the nails are going to be right, the hair is going to be on point. Like I care. I'm out repping for him, like I'm, and same for him. But what I found was, and it was so annoying to me because it'd be like the night of the date and he'd go into his closet, and every single time this happened, he'd go into the closet and be like, what do I wear? And I'd be like, what do you mean? What are the options? Okay, let's look at the options. And he'd pull out the same stupid 2 button-ups that don't even fit him anymore, that are faded, they weren't ironed. And like, we were never collaborating, or like, I don't want us to match, but I want us to like vibe, right? Like I want to be on the same wavelength together. And it got to the point where we weren't. And he was like, well, buy my clothes. Why? Other wives buy their husband's clothes. I was like, well, I'm not your mama. Okay. But I could do one better, and I'm going to get you a stylist. And I joked about this for years. And finally I was like, one of my Christmas gifts to myself was hiring a stylist for Chris Reeves. And he actually, as I record this, he has the call in 2 days. She is a stylist, I believe in Texas. And I learned about her from Macy and Kat. So if you follow them, they lately, like in the past couple years, have been dressing to the freaking nines. They're so vibey, and like they don't match colors, but they like the vibes are just on 10, right? Why? Because they understand the power of detail, because they understand the power of how you walk into the room and your energy and people's perception of you based on how you're showing up. It says so much about you, and it's an extension of your brand. Okay, so anyway, that was a side note. Like I invest in my clothes, and finally I'm like, okay, we're going to invest in yours too, because you're my husband, because I'm tired of wasting our time. I'm tired of you buying all these shitty clothes. You look too damn good to be wearing shit that doesn't fit you right, and that are those colors. So we're going to get it right. We're going to get it tight, because details matter. Okay. So that was a side note. So again, I invest in those things. I invest in my body, my training. I work out. I care about how I look and how I feel and the food that I put in my body, my image, my home, my mind, my spirit. I invest in my education. I invest in my business. I invest in all these things. So again, like the car was this missing puzzle piece. It was like this bright neon color thing in a sea of neutrals, right? My car's white. It's not bright at all, but it was a mismatch. It was a mismatch, and enough was enough when it became enough, when I was done with it, when I was over it, right? And I finally just do, okay, I'm done with it. But your frequency is affected by everything. That's what I want you to hear from this. It's not the car. It's not about the car. It's about what you care about and the environments that you put yourself in. And there's different things that affect different people in different ways. But your frequency is affected by everything. It starts with your beliefs, trickles down to your thoughts, then your emotions, then the words that you speak, the actions that you do or don't take, the company that you keep, your environment, what you choose to invest in, what you choose to don't invest in. All of it affects your frequency and how you feel, ultimately your vibration. So if you want to talk about this on a quantum level, on a scientific level, everything is comprised of atoms. You, the chair that you're sitting in, the car that you're driving, everything is made of atoms. The atom is mostly like an insane amount of just space. I should not have gotten into the scientific portion. I don't feel as confident with this. Why did I think that I could just riff on the quantum parts of this? I know this in my mind, but can I articulate it on the spot? Okay. Everything's made of atoms. Atoms are made mostly of blank space. And there is a vibration to everything, right? Everything vibrates on a certain level. And you are also made of these atoms. How you think, it all affects your vibration and how you feel, and thus what you attract, because like attracts like. I feel like I could have probably explained that a lot better, but I feel like you don't need that. You get it. We'll try that again next episode. I'll study up and I'll be able to articulate that a little bit better. But the whole point of this, right? The whole point of this is the more things that you can lock in and get on the frequency, or as close as possible to the frequency that you want to attract into your life, that you want to call more in. So if you want to call in more wealth, if you want to call in more joy, more love, more freedom, more health and wellness, like whatever, actually we need to think about emotions, but like whatever emotion, predominant emotion you want to feel the most and attract in, you need to be that thing. And every single thing, every decision you make, everything you put in or around your body, your environment, your experience affects your frequency. So if you are not in a place where you are creating the results that you want, or you're not attracting in that caliber of client or whatever, go through the list of things. Where are the mismatches? Where are the dissonances? Where are you saying on one hand, I am a luxury brand, or I am this caliber of person, or this caliber of business owner? Where are the details that are a mismatch to that? Very important. So like some other business examples over the years that I've had to catch for myself is I realized that like I wanted to be a multi-million-dollar brand, right? And I wanted to create a certain level of success and work with a certain caliber of person. But it's not enough just to say that, right? You got to be a match to it. And I realized, okay, there are some points of dissonance here. One of them being, while it's not impossible to create a multi-million-dollar brand and help a certain amount of person or people as a solo entrepreneur, people do it all the time. It certainly is not ideal. It's not easy, right? and you're really stacking the deck against you. So I realized one of my points of dissonance that was a mismatch for what I wanted to create was the amount of support I was putting in my life, right? I didn't have the space for what I was wanting to call in because I was trying to do it all myself. So then I started outsourcing more, and I got more support for the kids, and I brought people on my team, and I hired certain contractors to do the things that I didn't want to do that was taking up my most precious commodity, which is my time, and helping me so that, again, I could be more of a match. Other areas in business that I've shifted over the years, I noticed that like when I would, I wanted to attract in a certain client and charge certain prices, but the quality of work, not necessarily the work, but like the quality of the product that I was putting out didn't feel like a match to me, right? Like my video quality was really bad. And there was a really long time where I hosted everything in a Facebook group, which is fine. And again, a lot of very successful people do this, like Melanie Ann Layer, for example. I don't know if she still does this. It's been a few months since I've been in her world, but I'm sure she does. Like if you want to watch any of her programs, it's all in Facebook groups, like that's how, so it's not impossible. But for me, I wanted to create more of an elevated experience, which is why I invested in a platform like Kajabi. And I started, and I invested in cameras. I invested in this podcast, right? I wanted to elevate the way that I was showing up and the way that I was putting out my products, my offers, and my content for you. That mattered to me. That felt like a mismatch. So I couldn't afford not to address that because it was bringing my energy down. If it's not affecting your energy, don't worry about it. But if it's affecting your energy in a negative way, you literally can't afford to not address it. You cannot afford to not make a move on it because that downward energy is going to have you attracting at a level that you don't want. Does that make sense? I really like how I just said that. And I like that visual. What are otherwise, like with my clothes, and this is something me, Macy and Kat, when we met, we had a really long like brunch together, and then we talked for a while at their HQ, and then we recorded a podcast, and we talked about so many things. But my favorite part of our conversation was when we were talking about style and the power of clothing and investing in a wardrobe. That doesn't mean that you have to spend a ton of money. It means that you feel good in how you're showing up. You can get a quality wardrobe, or you can tap into your own personal style and confidence with more affordable brands, right? For me, over the years, and I'll do this all the time, I'll like go through my clothes and I can almost feel it. It's so interesting. Like there will be clothes that I've bought over the years that like I liked, I liked at the time. Maybe I've worn it and actually like to wear it sometimes. But when I'm holding it in my hand, I cannot explain it. It just feels like it's gotta go. It's like this, something is not, this is like, I don't know. I don't know if maybe I'm picking up on the way that it was made or who knows, but I can feel it. And I'm like, this feels like it needs to get out of my closet. And it's just the easiest way to say it, it's just not a match anymore. And I've gotten rid of pretty decent clothing, or I always donate it or give it away, but for that reason. But oftentimes it'll also be pieces that like, I bought on Amazon. I was like, this is cute. This will be cute for this one little thing or whatever. And then it's just like, I don't like the way it looks in my closet. I don't like the way that it looks hung up. So anyway, I will do this. And I'm really proud because I've really honed in my own, I'm figuring out my style. I need to work with Charla too. But like my pieces, right? And what I'm noticing is like, in a way, I invest more money in pieces, but I'm buying less. So it's either breaking even or close to it, or I might even be saving money. I doubt it. if you look at the purse collection, that's where it all goes to shit. But in terms of money spent. But anyway, that's it, right? Like that's why I say that. What did I say? That why I'm calling the portion investment, right? And some people will probably be very triggered by that and not like that I'm saying that. But I know even if I never show the Porsche in my marketing, which let's be honest, we know I will. But even if I don't, I know that I'm going to make back this money that I'm investing in the Porsche tenfold, 20-fold, simply because the way it's already making me feel. This Porsche has already shifted who I am and how I'm showing up because I care about it. It's not about the Porsche. It's not about the car. It's just that specific thing that matters to me. And it is shifting who I am, how I'm showing up, and how I'm presenting myself to the world, right? The declaration that I am making in the buying of it, like that says a lot. Just that move in and of itself speaks to my faith and my confidence in what I'm doing this year. I know it's going to come back to me. It always does, and it always will. So what I would encourage you to do in this episode is make a note of the details, right? Anything you can think of. Actually pay attention to this. Every single thing. Go through it, starting from how, your appearance, if that matters to you, to how you're dressing, to maybe what you drive. You don't have to get the thing today, but maybe you can make a plan for it. Start playing with the idea. You're going to blow your mind how fast things can shift. To the company that you keep, to the food that you put in your body, to how you take care of yourself, to how you talk to yourself, to how you invest in yourself or in your business. Do you treat yourself like if you want to be a successful business owner, do you treat yourself like a successful business owner? Do you show up in that way? Or do you treat yourself like somebody that cannot be trusted, that doesn't know what she's doing, that is not worth investing in? That's a big deal. That sends a powerful message. Our words don't matter. They don't. Words mean very, very little. It is how you show up in the world and your overall energy that actually carries the weight and makes a difference. So make the list, go through it, and anything that you see that's a glaring red flag, a glaring sign of dissonance, a mismatch to what you're creating, how you want to show up, who you are, who you're stepping into, you get to decide to do that today. Decide that that's who you are. This isn't who you're becoming. You are. Just by deciding, that's the most important part of becoming, is deciding that she is within you. Now you get to just play the fun game of bringing her out. How does she show up in the world? What are the details of that version of you? And then any glaring red flags that are a mismatch, make a plan to shift it. Make a plan to shift it and to get it right and tight and a match for what it is that you want. The more of these things, the more of these details that you pay attention to and that you honor and you take seriously is a vote for the energy and the thing that you are wanting to attract. This is the work. This is the secret to everything. If you want something, show up as the person who has it now. What does that look like for you? Okay. I love you. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, it would mean the world to me if you left us a positive review on iTunes or Spotify or on YouTube, wherever you listen to this, or just a comment on YouTube. That really, really helps. And that goes for me. That goes for any creator. Like if you listen to a podcast religiously or you get value from some creator, if you have the ability to take 2 minutes to leave a review, I cannot tell you how much that matters. And you are helping them stay in the game. You're helping them to continue to show up and create more value for you. So sometimes the best way to say thank you to somebody is to comment, to share, of course, but then again, leave that review, that positive review for them. It truly goes a long way. Okay. I love you. Thank you for celebrating with me, and I will see you next week.